Welcome to the Inner Flame podcast where Stardust meets the body. This week, this coming week, August 24th through the 30th, we are looking at. And I just want to start off by saying, what the heck? One, how are we at the end of August? I just feel like this summer has been so weird, and I did predict that it was going to be kind of intense. Um, and I thought that it was going to get a little bit clearer as the summer went on, but it was, what I had kind of felt was it was going to be kind of like a swirl, very swirling. I just get that image of oh, we're not even in the lazy river. It's like we're in this like what do I want to say? What are those called? Like a whirlpool. Okay, so I would love to hear how is everyone feeling? I think I was talking about that sorry, it said that I had lost connection there. Um I would love to hear what your feelings are with the eclipse season. I think we have another eclipse at the end, more towards the end of the month. So actually during this week, and that's really interesting because I'm sitting here and I'm just kind of looking over the cards. And I'm I feel like there's going to be an event. I feel like there's going to be some kind of event, like something's going to happen. And I actually want to look it up because I want to say is it the solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse? Let's just look it up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it is the lunar eclipse from August 27th through the 28th. Okay. And okay, yeah. So that is maybe the event that I am thinking of because I'm man, there's just we are still very much in this weird space, I want to say. And eclipses are very interesting. Um Again, I say the summer for me personally has been very difficult. We've had a lot of familial things happen, and then we have been going through quite a bit, which I will probably be sharing in the coming weeks, just about my experience these last couple of weeks. And uh, it says with the eclipses, or people say that you don't usually find clarity in the eclipses. You have to wait a little bit. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, before you're whoa, that really sinks in. Um, and I'm going to be honest, my memory isn't the best. And, when you see these things where it's this eclipse is from what you were doing in 2017. And I'm my God, I don't even know. It takes me a real minute to be well, what were we doing? What was I doing? Where was I? What were my goals? Um, but I will say, for me personally, this eclipse has felt very much um, highlighting everything, so much of what isn't working, where I need to make changes. And sometimes that can feel so agonizing. Um, and while all of that is happening, I do feel like I have clarity. So I am curious what this lunar eclipse is going to actually bring for me, for my family, um, because I am already feeling okay, we're moving in a direction that might feel good. So let's get into it because that feels a little all over the place. But I will be honest, it's just been it's still everything's landing, right? And I don't know about you, but I still feel even though I have the clarity, it still very feels like everything isn't grounded. I can't quite move the chess pieces yet because it's like the board hasn't even been laid out yet. Like, I know the board's there, I know we're gonna lay it out, but it's like the board hasn't been laid out yet. That's probably like such a weird metaphor, but take with it and take it and run with it. So let's look at the beginning of the week. We've got this card again that we had last week, which is the Realm Bridger. And this is really interesting. The way that this came up last week too was the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. It felt very much like bridging maybe what you desire or what your dreams are to what your reality is, like really being able to bring those pieces together. And that, I think, oh man, that's so nuanced in itself, because what I'm getting right now for the energy is like, we might see something we want, we're like, oh yeah, we want that for ourselves, but there are things that need to happen, or aspects of ourselves, or maybe responsibilities from us that kind of need to match that dream. And what I find often too is that people want that dream, that destination, that thing, but they don't want to make any changes to themselves. And that's where we find a lot of friction. And what's really interesting, wow, like now that I'm saying this, it's like boop, 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 boop. Because our groundwork for the beginning of the week is new life. This is eclipse season, and although I am not into astrology, I mean I am, but like I am not well versed enough in it to be able to really use it, but I do know the energies, right? And the eclipse season, it is very swirling. It is very much like, wow, where am I holding back to be able to access, to be able to see, to dream, to be able to make that new life happen? And so the Realm Bridger is really asking us this week to be able to say, okay, what does need to change? The raw truth of something, right? I just wrote an article that will be coming out next week about literally being able to be really honest with ourselves. And sometimes that doesn't happen as quick as we want it to because we don't have the clarity yet. I think sometimes we also have to be pushed in a corner to find the clarity. And that's just kind of, I want to say divine timing, divine lessons, right? Like sometimes these eclipses are like, yeah, you kept saying you wanted this and you're not doing anything about it, so we're going to make you do something about it. And that feels very much the energy of this week. So it's like, we know we've got this new life. This also is very much tied into the new paradigm. Like, what do you want in the new paradigm? Like, I talk very much about the new paradigm. I don't know. I am not a fearmonger. Energetically speaking, I can pick up on things, but it's not where I want my energy to go. And so the new paradigm, it's like, well, what do you want for the future? What do you hope for your kids? Are you in alignment with that, in your everyday life? And I think that's also like, this is kind of, where are we pretending, right? Where are we pretending that everything's going to be okay when maybe something needs to change for it to be okay? This is directly linked to our health. This is somehow, and I want to say this in two ways, because what I'm getting is the sense of obviously taking care of ourselves, right? Doing the thing that's going to allow us to, how is this coming through? Because I'm getting like so many things here. So doing the thing that we can do to take care of ourselves, to maybe gain clarity. Maybe that's walking, maybe that's writing, maybe that's meditating, maybe that whatever your thing is, right? But then I also see this as, if we are not willing to make the changes, it will start affecting our health, our mental health, our physical health. It's like, if we cannot allow something to change, we are going to be affected by this, okay? And so that to me is like, that's important, right? I'm going to look up in the book because I just also feel like I'm missing something with the Realm Bridger. But I feel like that's pretty good. Yeah, no, Architects for the Future. Yeah. Bridging the seen with the unseen, inspiration, seeding a new earth. Okay, new paradigm. Birthing ideas from subtle reality. Traversing different states of consciousness and journeying. So this is really about raising your vibration. But I don't think that we can like raise our vibration. I mean, I do, but I don't think we can raise our vibration or our frequency until we are honest with ourselves, because that to me is like bypassing. So this is very much like bridging the reality that we are in to the reality that we desire, the new life, and being able to make sure that, or just be aware that this is in direct connection with our health. Whatever, and this is like, I want to say this because I feel like there might be people who are listening and it's like, well, I'm scared. These are big changes. Like what's being asked of me is like super uncomfortable. And like, yeah, we are in a time that is asking so much of us, right? And it is scary and it does feel overwhelming and it can feel very like a burden almost. Very taxing on the body, very taxing on the mental health. But this is telling us that by the choices that we make are affecting our health. So I would keep that in mind with the beginning of this week. What is it that we desire? How can I make this decision and know that whatever I choose will be affecting me? Am I choosing to just keep going the same, and then maybe not being able to like deal? Maybe there's anxiety. Maybe there's feelings of overwhelm, disconnection. Maybe I don't like using the word depression, but depression, right? Sorrow, feeling disconnected from self, right? So just know that the beginning of this week is really us tuning into what decision can I make that even scares the shit out of me, that I can trust, that is actually going to be way more expansive for me. And you do have to kind of get there energetically. Otherwise, you're going kicking and screaming. Okay, so at the middle of the week, we've got building blocks. So again, this is foundations. This is implementation of the desires, of the dreams, right? Of taking those steps. And sometimes we don't begin with the steps. Sometimes we have to really work with the body and the mind for those steps to actually feel nourishing. I was just talking to my daughter about this. She said, I wasn't brave, I was scared. And I explained to her, you can't be brave without being scared. That's why it's so amazing. And of course, it's going to make me cry because it makes me think about all the times that we do things, right? That we are scared shitless or we feel really nervous about, but we choose to be brave. We choose to have courage. We choose to trust the process. We choose to be like, I did it. I might not have nailed it, but I did it. This is like really being able to let the body know that I'm okay even when I'm scared, right? That I did the scary thing. And we sometimes have to remind the body and the mind, right? We have to start with the mind of being able to say, like, that's why I do my EFT practices. Like, I am confident. I feel confident. My body, my mind, my spirit feels confident. I am confident, and I go through this whole little ritual. So maybe starting with understanding that our minds have to shift to be able to really have a strong foundation. Oh, wow. The last card is calm. So, I know I look at these cards, but I don't always like look at them as I'm talking. And so calm is very much our nervous system. Calm is very much being able to say, I'm doing the scary thing. And I just want to reiterate again, when I talk about nervous system care, that does not mean that we're just like, I don't even know, like numb, like disconnected, like calm all the time through life. It's about being able to remind the body, like, we go through scary things almost every day that make us nervous. That doesn't mean that I'm not okay. That doesn't mean that I'm out of control. It just is like reminding you, be like, hey, just remember to like remind the body, like, we survived. We did that. We did that scary thing, and like build your confidence. So this is also very much tied to, and this is interesting because this card is called She of the Lotus, and it very much reminds me of Kuan Yin. And Kuan Yin was, if you know the story of Kuan Yin, it's actually really, really devastating. She's not considered a dark goddess, but I almost would, because her story is very dark, very sad. But she is the goddess of compassion. She is the goddess to know that, sometimes we don't get a bloom. The lotus blooms in murky water. And that to me is like, yeah, things can bloom even when it feels like a mess. It feels like a shit show. It feels chaotic. And which you might very much be feeling like right now with the energies of the eclipse, everything swirling around. We're about to change seasons as well. We're ending summer, moving into fall. And I don't know about anybody else, but my body definitely feels that shift energetically. It's like we're moving into a whole new cycle. It is the end of something and moving into the beginning of something, which can feel not only symbolic, obviously, for the seasons, but also what we are going through, right? Like the eclipses, what we might be experiencing in our lives. But there's something else I wanted to say with this one, and now I can't remember. Shadow work, addressing dissonance. Seeing downfalls as the flip side of superpowers. And I think that is so lovely, because what I feel like this is saying with building blocks is being able to say, maybe we got to start with the mind. And maybe what happens here is we tear ourselves apart. That's my dream, but I'm never going to get there. That's what I want, but that's never going to happen for me. And like, these can be sneaky little fuckers. They really can. It's like, wow, I'm doing so good. And then it's like, whoa, there's like that subliminal messaging that I didn't even catch on to. That's literally still encoded in me. So this to me is saying, like, being able to see what we assume is a downfall is actually a superpower. Okay, great. Right there I can see that. How can I shift that? And like, I feel like this is not harping, not playing into the victimhood. It's like, okay, I see this and I recognize this, and this is, I'm moving over in this direction. Loving yourself back to wholeness. Again, I talk about Inanna last week being the goddess, and Kuan Yin and Inanna very much actually, to me, Kuan Yin is really known as the goddess of compassion. And Inanna might not have as much compassion, or is known to have as much compassion as Kuan Yin, but there is this connection between the two of them of this suffering, so being able to really love yourself as a whole, not judging yourself too harshly for what you presume is a downfall, but really being able to honor your own emotions and what's coming up. Okay? So again, the middle of the week is being able to say, like, okay, we've got some groundwork that we're starting, and I maybe need to start with the mind to be able to support this, so that my body knows that changes are upon me, and I want to do the changes, but I need to tell myself that everything's going to be okay. There isn't a tiger that's actually going to come eat me. All right, by the end of the week, we have this card which is exchanging gifts, and this is so interesting because it reminds me a lot of the yin card. And if you remember, a couple weeks ago we got the yin card, I think twice, 2 weeks in a row, and it was very much about being able to receive. Exchanging gifts to me is being able to this it's like being able to give and receive. There's a reciprocity here. And then we've got the ether card, which is, this to me is like as above, so below. This could be very much voidy energy. But I like these cards, like this almost also reminds me of like paradox, like as above, so below. Dark versus light, light versus dark, not versus, but you know what I mean. There can't be one without the other almost, because we've got this like, it's almost like contradiction but coherence, contradiction but harmony with this card. So and this says the seamless unspeakable, the seamless unspeakable, the seamless unspeakable. I like that. All right. 0 point field, the void, blank canvas, threshold. I really am loving the word threshold. It's like, it reminds me of like Ainana's gate. There's a threshold that we're upon, or like a portal that we're walking through. But threshold is like, it also makes me feel like, you're the one who gets to decide, right? Anything is possible. Time to choose what you want to bring into your life. Endless possibilities, limitlessness, paradox. Paradox, okay. It is where all dreams are birthed, and it is the light we may fear to be darkness when just for one moment everything ceases to exist. It is where all dreams are birthed, and it is the light we may fear to be darkness when, just for one moment, everything ceases to exist. This is the place between worlds. So again, this is very like the liminal space. That's really interesting. Herein lies the feeling that we may have been striving our whole life to meet, and yet simultaneously, subconsciously running from. That's so interesting. So it's again like being in the mind. And I think when we start with the mind, I think when we understand the subconscious, the shadows, we can better understand this liminal space. I did a talk the other day with Amanda and Mia, and we were really talking about the energies of the new world and just kind of what we're feeling energetically. And it was really interesting because we were Mia described it as being able to like look at things happening, or looking at something happening, but you're almost watching them in like different densities. It's like different things are happening at the same time. And then I went on to explain it like looking through a kaleidoscope. And the kaleidoscope to me, it's like no matter where you move it over here and you see it one way, and then you shift it, and then you look a little bit further over and there's more light that comes in, and it completely changes your scope of view, which could feel maybe a little unnerving, because it's like nothing feels like what it's supposed to be. You're looking at reality like a kaleidoscope, which is maybe very much at the end of the week what we feel like. It's like, what the frick am I even looking at? Because this is very much being able to say, hey, you've got these dreams, you've got these visions, let's get there. But to get there, we kind of have to take these steps, and we need to kind of traverse the subconscious mind, which, by the way, is my jam. I like being able to see patterns. I like being able to traverse the subconscious mind. but we don't want to stay there. And I think that's where it can kind of feel overwhelming. Also because things might not make sense yet. And it's like, I don't want to go there because I don't understand it. But it's almost like as we travel through the subconscious mind in our own world, and maybe even the macro, right? The We're not looking through the kaleidoscope anymore where it looks just like fractals of light. It's like as you do it, it becomes more clear, right? There's more clarity. There's an image that's starting to take form. The edges become more crisp, right? There's a whole thing that's happening. But this exchanging gifts is almost like it's a give and take, right? You want to be able to stay there, you take from it, but you give it something. And what does that mean? Okay, well, I'm going to take the information that I learn from my subconscious mind without judgment, only curiosity. Treat it like a science experiment. Like, I'm just curious, what does this mean? Not judgment, but what does this mean? And then I'm going to give it recognition. Your subconscious mind is really what wants to be validated. It wants to be understood. And I think we are so scared of it that we just push it away. So exchanging gifts to me is like this, there needs to be a reciprocity, but this also is saying don't stay there too long. Don't take and take and take and take and not give anything. There's something else that like wants to come out of that, but I'm not sure what I want to say. Something about reciprocity, something about the balance, something. I think this comes back to joy, like, receiving a gift feels joyful. So if you can actually look at this in the frame of mind of like, I'm receiving a gift from this work, then it kind of changes the whole energy, as opposed to like, oh God, I really don't want to look in there. I don't want to know what's going on in there. I don't know if that's going to make sense, but that's kind of what's coming through. Weighing costs and determining value, currency. Okay, so then again, this also might have something to do with finances. I keep talking about the financial system changing and altering, and I really feel like we're so close. So this is like maybe the trade-offs, weighing costs and determining value. This also to me is like, again, where we want to go. It's kind of like we can't have everything that we want right now. You have this perfect vision that you hold in your head, and maybe it can't be perfect right now. So this is like weighing costs and determining values, trade-offs, letting some things go for you to maybe take 2 steps in the direction that you want to go. And then maybe allowing that to come back to you at another time. I hope that makes sense. Okay, you're entering into a productive and enriching time when all manner of opportunities are being offered to you. You have everything you need to seize them. Yet in order to honor them, you must put in the time, exchange your experience and skills, and commit heart and soul to what you're choosing to pursue. You can do it. You have what it takes to be successful if you align with the law of giving and receiving. You must engage in a dance of give and take, push and pull, doing and being, which is very interesting because we are very much in a time of like I call it the era of being. But there is this feeling of there's still doing, right? But there's got to be the balance here. If you let fear guide your choices, you could deplete yourself or create an imbalance. This is not a time of just do. Yes, use your currency wisely and be mindful of the value others bring to your life. So this feels like, again, what I'm trying to say. You might have to let some things go. Maybe you're pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're not doing any pulling. Maybe you're pushing and pushing for it to be something, but you kind of have to let some things go, let it be what it needs to be, and let it come back around. Okay? So this to me is really saying that we're moving in the right direction, but I'm not necessarily getting this as, well, I don't want to say that. It's not like there's something in here that I didn't like about the card that I wasn't getting. So let me see. Well, it is like all opportunities, right? All manner of opportunities are being offered to you, which is very much like what we were seeing with the seamless unspeakable, right? It was basically saying there's limitlessness, there's only possibilities. So it's very much, but this to me is also saying let's keep it in balance. There, you can't overtake and you don't want to overgive. This is really being able to say, okay, what steps do I need to take to keep my life in coherence, in balance? And that can sometimes be really, really hard. But this is leading to growth, right? This is leading to growth. So the more we can actually, I talked about this the other day, and for some reason this is coming up. It's about, like, with the eclipse energy, we sometimes feel like these waves are kind of consuming us, and it can feel hard to maybe float. We feel like we're being sucked under. I just feel like this is connected to this. This is like really remembering that you are resilient. You might be like, I'm not resilient, but you had to be resilient to be here. You know, we have to be resilient. I honestly think anybody living on this planet right now knows how to be resilient, because life has not been easy. It's been very convoluted, nuanced, overwhelming, crazy. And I think we're moving out of that. I know we're moving out of that into something that's much brighter, much better. But we have a lot of work to do as the collective to still just let go. It's letting go. It's really being allowing ourselves, giving ourselves to permission to see something brighter waiting for us. And I think that's also hard, because we have been, we've been going through times where we constantly feel like we have to be braced for impact, or we've got to have it all figured out. We've got to have a backup plan. We've got to have all the answers. And I think right now, overall, is like, what can I let go? What am I being asked to let go of? So let me know what you think. That was a lot. But I think this week, just again, be kind to yourself, stay hydrated, whatever you're feeling, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. What are your dreams? What does it feel like to maybe take the steps? Maybe you just need to feel validated that this is really hard right now, and I don't have the answers, but this is my dream. Put it in the comments. I would love to hear, because sometimes it just feels good to be validated in what we're experiencing. And also somebody cheer you on for your dreams. So let me know, and I wish you a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.